instinct. Never wear shoes you can't walk confidently in. Eleanor Marshall, is that you? My cousin Abigail approached, her expression a mixture of shock and curiosity. Mom said you weren't coming. Change of plans, I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Well, this is... wow. She adjusted her designer handbag nervously. Are James and Uncle Robert? Not yet, I replied, enjoying her discomfort a little too much. More relatives noticed me as we made our way toward the lawn. Aunt Susan nearly spilled her champagne. Uncle Thomas did a comical double take. Two of my father's colleagues whispered behind their hands. I kept my chin high, acknowledging their surprised greetings with polite nods. Ahead, I could see James directing a florist, gesturing emphatically at an arch of white roses. He looked the same, handsome in that polished way, his movements confident and entitled. I took a deep breath, preparing for the confrontation. But it was Catherine I spotted first. She stood slightly apart from the wedding party, checking something on her phone. She wore a simple white sundress, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. When she looked up and saw me, her face transformed with genuine delight. She called, hurrying toward me. The conversations around us quieted as heads turned to watch. Catherine approached with a slight, respectful curtsy. A charming that I'd noticed in my courtroom. I didn't know you'd be here. Her voice carried clearly across the suddenly silent lawn. James whipped around, his expression changing from confusion to shock to horror in the span of seconds. Our eyes locked over Catherine's shoulder. Judge Marshall is a family friend? Catherine continued, oblivious to the tension crackling through the air. Not exactly, I said quietly, keeping my eyes on my brother. James strode toward us, his face draining of color. Eleanor, he said flatly. This is unexpected. Is it? I replied. I RSVP'd. Catherine looked between us, her brow furrowing in confusion. You two know each other? You could say that, James answered, his voice tight. Eleanor is my daughter, my mother interjected, moving to stand beside me. James's sister. Catherine's mouth fell open. Sister? She turned to James. You told me your sister couldn't handle medical school and disappeared. That she was... She stopped herself, but we all heard the unspoken word. Disappointment. I didn't disappear, I said calmly. I became a judge. Wait. Catherine's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Judge Marshall is your sister? The same? Judge Marshall who's being considered for the federal bench? The silence that followed felt heavier than any courtroom hush. Family members and wedding guests had abandoned all pretense of not listening, forming a loose circle around us. James attempted a dismissive laugh that came out more like a cough. Elle always did have unconventional ideas about success. Unconventional? Catherine's voice rose slightly. Judge Marshall's rulings on the Bennett housing case are being cited in law schools. Her juvenile justice reforms have become a model for 3 other states. Yes, well, James shifted uncomfortably. I suppose law has its place, though it's hardly... Hardly what, James? I interrupted, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Hardly saving lives? Because that's what you were about to say, isn't it? That's always been the family line. Unless you're healing bodies, you're not doing anything that matters. My father chose that moment to emerge from the house, stopping short when he saw me. For an instant, I was 12 years old again, awaiting his judgment. Then I remembered the robe I wore every day, the gavel I wielded, the lives I'd changed, with my decisions. Dad, James called, a hint of desperation in his voice. Did you know about this? My father approached slowly, looking older than I remembered. Your mother mentioned the possibility, he said carefully. His eyes assessed me with clinical precision. You look well, Eleanor. Thank you, I replied, neither warm nor cold. I'm well? Catherine was still staring at James, her expression hardening. You told me your sister was a troubled dropout. You never once mentioned she was Judge Eleanor Marshall. I didn't think it was relevant, James muttered. Not relevant? Catherine's voice rose again. James, I've been studying her cases since law school. I argued in her courtroom. I've cited her opinions in my briefs. A ripple of whispers spread through the onlookers. Someone, I think it was Uncle Thomas, let out a low whistle.
6 hours in and not a single ad. Check it out. All right, we just take out those 5 baddies real quick and we can all go home, enjoy a nice hot cup of tea. Whoa, do you guys see all those? Oh my God, how are we gonna take care of that? All right, we're definitely gonna need a tower. Gotta spend the money. Ooh, that helps a lot. But wait, we got a big boy over there. Are we strong enough? No, we're gonna need another tower. Gotta spend another 10 coins for that tower. All right, come on, we gotta be strong. He's so close. Oh my God. We took care of him. Let's do some cleanup. Oh, but we got a couple more bad guys down there. We need more towers. Oh my God. And King Shot, enemies are invading from every direction. You'll have to build your defense, upgrade towers, and keep your kingdom safe. No ads or pop-ups that annoy you every 30 seconds. Just pure fun and strategy without any break. Want to see how you can rule as a king? Download and try it now.
Switching mags.
So, perhaps we should continue this discussion privately, my father suggested, looking around at the growing audience. Why? I asked. James didn't feel the need for privacy when he announced to everyone at Thanksgiving dinner that I was nothing but a disappointment who would never contribute anything meaningful to this world. James flinched. That was 5 years ago, Eleanor. And you did walk out on a prestigious medical career that most people would kill for. I walked out on a path that wasn't mine. I corrected him. Just like Grandpa did when he chose business over medicine. That was different, my father interjected. Was it? I countered. Or was it only acceptable because he was a man making his own choice, while I was just a girl who should do as she was told? My father had no answer for that. Catherine, however, wasn't finished. She turned to James, removing her engagement ring with deliberate movements. I need some time to think, she said quietly, placing the ring in his palm. This isn't just about your sister, James. It's about you lying to me, about who you are, who your family is. She looked at me, then back at him. If you could lie about something so fundamental, what else haven't you told me? Without waiting for an answer, she walked away toward the guest house. James stared after her, then at the ring in his hand, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. Are you satisfied, now? He asked me bitterly. You've managed to ruin my wedding before it even happened. I didn't do this, James, I said quietly. Your own dishonesty did. He stormed off toward the main house, leaving me standing with my parents and a circle of stunned relatives. The silence stretched uncomfortably until my mother spoke. I think, she said with remarkable composure, we could all use some refreshment. Dinner will be served in 30 minutes. As the crowd dispersed, my father remained, studying me with an unreadable expression. You've done well for yourself, he said finally, the closest thing to approval I'd heard from him in a decade. Yes, I agreed simply. I have. The rehearsal dinner that evening was a study in awkward silences and forced conversation. James didn't appear until the soup course, his face set in grim lines. Catherine remained absent entirely. I sat between my mother and Aunt Susan, fielding questions about my interesting career choice from relatives who suddenly seemed fascinated by the legal system. So you actually send people to jail? Uncle Thomas asked, as if I'd admitted to an exotic hobby. When appropriate, I replied, sipping my water, though much of my docket involves civil matters, property disputes, custody arrangements, business conflicts. Eleanor specialized in family law before taking the bench, my mother added with unexpected pride. She was known for finding solutions where others saw only problems. I glanced at her, surprised by the specific knowledge. Perhaps she really had been following my career all along. James picked at his food, barely participating in the conversation until one of his groomsmen, a fellow surgeon named David, made an ill-advised attempt to lighten the mood. Well, who would have thought? The black sheep became the star. He raised his glass with a grin. To Judge Marshall. Please don't, I said quietly, but several guests had already lifted their glasses. James set down his fork with a clatter. She's not a star, he said coldly. She quit. When medicine got too difficult, she walked away. Let's not pretend dropping out is something to celebrate. The table fell silent again. I counted to 10 in my head, a technique I used when facing particularly difficult attorneys in my courtroom. I didn't quit because medicine was too difficult, James, I said evenly. I quit because it wasn't my calling. There's a difference. A calling, he scoffed. What does that even mean? Medicine is the Marshall family legacy. A legacy you guarded jealously, I observed. Remember when we were kids and I got a higher score on that science project? You didn't speak to me for a week. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the truth in my words. James had always needed to be the best, the favorite, the one destined for greatness. That's absurd, he protested. I was supportive of you until you threw everything away. An unexpected voice joined the conversation, my father's. That's not entirely true, James, he said quietly. You were competitive with your sister from an early age. Your mother and I probably encouraged that too much. James stared at our father, visibly stunned by this betrayal. What are you saying? That it's my fault she quit? No, my father replied. I'm saying we all played a part in what happened, including me. He looked at me directly, perhaps especially me. The admission hung in the air, as surprising to me as to everyone else at the table. My father, Dr. Robert Marshall, who had never admitted error in his life, was acknowledging his role in our family's fracture. The best man cleared his throat. Maybe we should talk about something else? The weather's supposed to be perfect for the ceremony. Tomorrow. If there is a ceremony, muttered one of the bridesmaids, not quite under her breath. There will be, James insisted, though uncertainty flashed in his eyes. Catherine just needs time to cool off. This is all just overwhelming for her. I excused myself shortly after the main course, needing air and space. The night was warm, stars visible above the estate's gardens. I found a stone bench near a reflecting pool, my grandfather's favorite spot, and sat down, fingering his pocket watch in my jacket pocket. I thought I might find you here, said a voice behind me. Catherine emerged from the shadows, still, in her white sundress. Your mother mentioned it was a special place for your grandfather. It was, I confirmed, making room for her on the bench. How are you holding up? She sat down with a heavy sigh. Honestly, I don't know. 24 hours ago, I thought I understood my life. Now, I'm sorry, I offered. It wasn't my intention to disrupt your wedding. It wasn't you, she said firmly.
That's a kill.
It was James.
Switching
All
mags.
this time. She shook her head. I can't believe I didn't see it. The way he always redirected conversations about his family, the missing photos, the inconsistencies in his stories. She paused. May I ask you something, Judge Marshall? Eleanor, I corrected gently. And yes. What was he like? Growing up, I mean. Was he always so driven, competitive, eager for approval? I suggested. Yes, but he could also be kind. When I had strep throat in 4th grade, he read me stories. For hours. When his friends made fun of my braces, he defended me.
I'm under fire.
I looked across the dark garden.
Everybody be asking me, man, does the blue shoe actually work? Whoa. You get a month for
Enemies down.
You can get 1 month for free. So you got nothing to lose and you got everything to gain.
try it. And you're gonna like it. First month is free, get involved, pop a chewable, and you tell yourself, if they work or not.
James isn't a villain, Catherine. He's just human, flawed, desperate to be the perfect son, even when it meant pushing me into the role of the imperfect one. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. I've spent 2 years with a man who couldn't be honest about something as fundamental as his relationship with his sister. What does that say about our future? No answer for her. We sat in companionable silence until she stood to leave. Thank you, she said, for your honesty and for your rulings in the Westside Community Center case. That place houses the after-school program that saved me when I was a kid with nowhere to go. She walked away
So,
toward the guest
you
house,
did?
leaving me to contemplate how many lives I'd touched without realizing it, and how many James had saved that I would never know about. Perhaps we'd both found our callings after all. Morning light filtered through the curtains of my guest room, waking me earlier than I would have liked. After a restless night, I dressed in casual clothes and slipped outside for a walk, hoping to clear my head before facing the day's inevitable tensions. The estate grounds were quiet, staff not yet arrived to prepare for the now uncertain wedding. I followed a familiar path down to the small pond where my grandfather had taught me to fish, surprised to find Catherine sitting on the dock, her feet dangling above the water. Couldn't sleep either? I asked, joining her. She shook her head. I've been out here for hours thinking. We sat in silence, watching a family of ducks glide across the water's surface. Finally, Catherine spoke. I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest. What kind of man is your brother, really? I considered my answer carefully. Ambitious, proud, desperate for approval, especially from our father. Sometimes arrogant. I paused. But also brilliant, dedicated to his patients, capable of great compassion when it matters most. Is he the man I thought I was marrying? She pressed. Only you can answer that, I replied. But I will say this. People are rarely all good or all bad. James created a narrative about me that was unfair and untrue. That was wrong. But it came from his own insecurities, not malice. Catherine twisted her hands in her lap. He came to the guest house last night. We talked until dawn. And he admitted everything. How he built himself up by diminishing you. How he'd been terrified I would think less of him if I knew his sister was more successful. She sighed. He seemed genuinely sorry. For the first time since I've known him, he was completely vulnerable. No pretense, no performance. That doesn't sound like the James I know, I admitted. People can change, she said softly. If they want to badly enough. Do you believe he wants to? I think so, she nodded. But I also told him I needed time, that the wedding should be postponed. Before I could respond, a commotion rose from the direction of the main house. A staff member was running toward us. Ms. Wilson, Judge Marshall. It's Dr. Marshall, the elder one. She's collapsed. We rushed to the house, finding my father seated in an armchair in the library, my mother hovering, anxiously nearby. The young man I recognized as one of James's medical colleagues was taking his pulse. It's just angina, my father insisted, though his face was pale. No need for all this fuss. We've called an ambulance anyway, my mother said firmly. Robert, please don't argue. James burst into the room, medical bag in hand. What happened? He demanded, immediately switching into doctor mode. Your father experienced chest pain while climbing the stairs, the colleague explained. His pulse is slightly irregular, but stable. James knelt beside her father, taking over the examination with practiced efficiency. I stood back, feeling suddenly out of place in this medical scene, until my father's eyes found mine over James's shoulder.
Damn it, I missed.
Eleanor, he called weakly. Come here, please. Surprised, I approached the chair. My
Goodbye.
father reached out and took my hand in his, the first time he had touched me in 5 years. I may not have another chance to say this, he began. Don't be dramatic, Dad, James interrupted. Your vitals are stabilizing already. Be quiet, James, my father said with unexpected sharpness. I need to speak to your sister. His eyes, so like my own, held mine steadily. I was wrong, Eleanor. Wrong to push you into a path that wasn't yours. Wrong to withdraw my support when you found your own way. I stared at him, speechless. Your grandfather told me I would regret it, he continued. The day after that Thanksgiving dinner, he came to my office and said, I'm going to be asking for her forgiveness someday, Robert. I just hope you do. Be it before it's too late. He squeezed my hand. I hope it's not too late. The ambulance arrived before I could formulate a response. As the paramedics prepared to transport my father, James pulled me aside. This doesn't change anything, he said, but the usual edge was missing from his voice. Doesn't it? I countered. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar from our childhood that it almost made me smile. I don't know how to do this, Eleanor. How to be wrong. It gets easier with practice, I assured him. Trust me, I issue rulings I later question all the time. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Always so sure of yourself. Hardly, I admitted. But I've learned to live with uncertainty. It's part of being human. My mother approached, her face drawn with worry. They're taking your father to Memorial Hospital. I'm going with him. She hesitated. Will you both come? Together? James and I exchanged a glance. Decades of competition and hurt flowing between us, but also the faint memory of being allies once, long ago. I'll drive, I offered. The 3 hours we spent in the hospital waiting room were awkward, but not hostile. James explained the tests they were running on our father. I helped my mother fill out insurance forms, my legal training making quick work of the complicated documents. When the doctor emerged to report that my father was stable and would be discharged with medication adjustments, we shared a moment of collective relief. That evening, back at Rosemont Estate, I found my mother in the family study, looking through old photo albums. I've kept these hidden for years, she confessed, showing me a page of newspaper clippings about my cases. Your father. It was easier not to remind him. And now? I asked. Now I'm done hiding, she said with newfound firmness. I've missed too much of your life already, Eleanor. As I turned the pages of her scrapbook, I was stunned by how comprehensive it was. Articles, photographs, even transcripts of some of my more noteworthy decisions. All this time, I'd thought she'd been completely disinterested in my career. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked. She looked down, ashamed. I wasn't brave enough to stand up to your father, or to James. She met my eyes again. But seeing you walk in yesterday, so confident, so accomplished, I've never been prouder, Eleanor. Never. Later that night, a knock came at my guest room door. James stood in the hallway holding something in his hand. Grandfather's watch, he said, holding it out to me. Mom told me she took it from you. But the truth is, I knew it was meant for you. I took it after the funeral because I was angry, jealous of what you had with him. I accepted the watch, running my thumb over the worn gold case. He loved you too, James. Not the way he loved you, James said without bitterness. He saw something in you that the rest of us missed. He paused. Catherine has decided to postpone the wedding. She says we need time to rebuild trust. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. He shrugged. It's better than canceling it altogether, which is what I probably deserve. He turned to go, then stopped. The federal bench nomination? Is it true? It's been discussed, I acknowledged. Nothing official yet. You'd be good at it, he said simply, the first professional compliment he'd ever given me. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. It wasn't even reconciliation.
I'm under fire.
But as I closed my door and placed my grandfather's watch on the nightstand,
The
I
fuck?
thought perhaps it was a beginning. All rise. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Marshall presiding.
You're in the top 3.
1
Don't
year
let up now.
after the wedding that wasn't, I entered my expanded chambers at the federal courthouse. The black robe felt heavier, the responsibility greater, but the sense of purpose remained the same. My clerk handed me the day's docket as I settled behind the bench. First case, I announced. Wilson Community Legal Services versus Northland Development Corporation. Catherine entered with confident steps, leading a small team of attorneys. Her firm, established 6 months earlier with seed funding from an anonymous donor, my mother, though Catherine didn't know it, had quickly gained a reputation for effective advocacy on behalf of underserved communities. Your Honor, she began, her eyes meeting mine with professional respect, but no hint of awkwardness. After the postponed wedding had become a canceled one, Catherine and I had maintained a cautious friendship, based initially on professional admiration and eventually on genuine liking.
Taking fire.
$200. Fly now.
Fuck yes!
Sparks are built differently than Viagra.
Woo. Oh, fuck yeah. I won. Warzone. Solos. No, I won more than that, but since living here, yeah.
Liking. The case proceeded
Yep.
smoothly, both sides presenting strong arguments. During a brief recess,